Okay, so there was actually another comment left on our Trauma in the Genes video that I wanted to read to you because this relates to something we used to talk about. So the person said, I saw something like this, but with monkeys. Great show.
Oh, Tower Hat again. Thank you. Thank you. Monkeys in a cage.
Monkeys in a
right?
cage.
Yeah, okay.
We used to break that down in class all the time.
We did. That was a common example we used. Yeah, monkeys in a cage. You definitely can relate to genetic memory, genetic programming, also social conditioning, things of that nature. How you can be programmed to behave a certain way, and that behavior can go long beyond the actual relevance, if that makes sense, of it in the time that it was programmed. So yeah, monkeys in a cage, we can tell that. We can breeze through that story, or experiment, story, whatever it is. You can find it online, so people might be familiar with it already. But yeah, so it goes, you put 5 monkeys in a cage, right? You lock the cage. In the cage, you put a banana at the top, hanging from the top of the cage, and you put a ladder in the middle of the cage, right? Mm-hmm. So 5 monkeys, come in the cage, and they see the banana, right? So obviously someone's going for it. It's food, right? So monkey goes for the banana. You hose down that monkey with freezing cold water, and you hose down all the other monkeys as well. So everyone gets hosed with the freezing cold water. So they're going to be upset. They're going to be like, why hang this food in front of us, but we can't have it? So they're going to go for it again. They might. And every time they go for it, you hose them down with the freezing cold water over and over again until they get the message. Nobody can go for the banana in the middle of the cage. Don't matter how good it looks. You can't get it. Right? So at that point, if any monkey does gather up the courage, like, you know what? It's been a while. Maybe things have changed. Let me go for the banana. The other monkeys, fearing this impending freezing cold water, will drag that monkey down off the ladder and just beat it up. Like, what are you doing? We've been through enough. Stop this.
Yeah.
Stop this. Okay, so eventually, no one gets to the banana. So what you do next is you swap out a monkey. Take one monkey out the cage, bring in a new monkey, a fresh monkey. Monkey comes in the cage, obviously looks around. Everyone's just minding their own business, looks at the banana. I don't know why none of you guys are going for it. I'm going for the banana. Goes for the banana, the other monkeys drag it off the ladder, beat it up. It's like, no, you can't do that here. Monkey's confused, doesn't know what's going on, but it's like, okay, fair enough. Might try once or twice more, might get dragged down, might get beaten up. Okay, swap out another monkey. Monkey comes in, is fresh, and sees the banana, goes for the banana. All the other monkeys, including the one that's never been hosed down with the freezing cold water, has only been beaten up. Mm-hmm. Drag down that monkey off the ladder and get to beating on it. Okay, beating it up. So you look at that monkey who's never been hosed down, like, what you did? But it will join in, if that makes sense. So you continue with that process. You continue swapping out the monkeys until eventually you have 5 fresh monkeys in the cage. 5 monkeys who have never been hosed down with the freezing cold water. But yet, even at that point, if a monkey gathers up the courage to go for the banana, the other monkeys will drag that monkey down and beat it up. And how it was said is that when you had that happening with 5 fresh monkeys, the monkeys looking up like, why are you guys beating me? And other monkeys like, well, we don't know. That's just the way things are done around here, because they've never actually been hit with the freezing cold water, if that makes sense. So that's a kind of summary. I've heard it told differently. Hopefully that's good enough for people to grasp the idea of what the message is. Really, it is it's social conditioning. It's potentially genetic memory in the sense we were speaking about it. But it's, you're conditioning these beings to behave a certain way, and that conditioning goes beyond the actual happening, if that makes sense. The happening being the freezing cold water, if that makes sense. But if you continued swapping out the monkeys, the idea is that they would continue with that behavior based on the conditioning, because conditioning itself perpetuate it spreads itself, if that makes sense. So once you get the program in, that program continues. The subjects of that program will continue with the conditioning, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, that story is an interesting one. It can move to explain so many things, or it can move to make you question so many different things. And it's why when you come into a situation, right, you should always question the way things are being done, right? This is why we go back to the segment we did on religion, where we spoke about how we predate the religions. And we spoke about how important questions are. right? Because at that point if you don't have a good enough answer, then it's clear we shouldn't be doing this, right? Monkey's like, why are you guys beating me up? They're like, we don't know.
We don't even know.
We don't know. So that applies to general life, right? If you come into a situation, or you're born into a family, or you're born into a tribe, or you're born into a certain religion, so on and so forth, if you ask the question, why are we doing this? And the answer isn't sufficient, then you shouldn't really be doing it, right? If there's not a general purpose to what you're doing, then you shouldn't be doing it. And what that story demonstrates is that you can be conditioned to behave a certain way, and then they don't even have to do anything anymore. You're just conditioned that way. That's the way you behave now, because you're not asking the questions. Mm-hmm. And the question can be as simple as why? Why are we behaving this way? What is it? How does it benefit us? What does it help us achieve? So on and so forth. So yeah, that's a good example.
It is. Steep. The question can be as simple as why.
Yeah, it can be as simple as why.
I think that reminds me of one of my favourite fables by Baba. I think we should probably read that one on here, but it was about asking the question. Right. No one had ever asked the question why.
Why? It's an important question.
Yeah.
It's an important question. And if, like we said back then, in that segment back then, if everything is just and it's exactly how it should be, the answer will be easily forthcoming. Mm-hmm. Why? Because this, because that, because this helps, whatever it is. But if there is no answer, then you then have to further question what you're doing, if that makes sense. And that was really the concept of that story, if that makes sense. And that can apply in any situation. You come into a situation where I've seen it in the workplace as well, where you come into a situation and a particular business was using old technology, and a new person came in like, why are we using this? And the boss didn't really have an answer, so they upgraded, helped the business just by asking why. So yeah, that was that story. Very interesting story. Again, you can search that up. Story experiment. Thought experiment. Whatever it was. The idea was that okay, you can be conditioned to behave in a certain way. So yeah, the comment is correct. It definitely relates to genetic memory, genetic trauma, so on and so forth. Us as a people being conditioned to behave a certain way, and it's long gone, whatever was happening to us, but because we've been conditioned as such, we still behave that way, if that makes sense. So yeah, genetic memory, social conditioning, the matrix, the systems, all of these things, they tie in, and they definitely pertain to freeing ourselves mentally, if that makes sense. So yeah, I like that comment. Yeah. Good point out.